Hello everyone. Now, Pokemon X and Y introduced a new type called the Fairy type. I thought it would be interesting because of this to actually do a challenge using them in these games. Before we begin though, there is another YouTuber who has actually done this by the name of Darkrai TV. He used different strategies, so be sure to check his video out also. As always, we're using a Hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, meaning a fainted Pokemon is dead and cannot be used again. You may only catch the first Pokemon of each type on a route. No items in battle. No overleveling, and you must always play on set mode. I start off the adventure by picking Chespin as the starter, therefore Shauna is going to have a Fennekin. We've then got to take on Shauna, but she is quite an easy battle. Because of how easy she can be throughout the games, I'm only going to be highlighting the battles with her where we've actually had some form of struggle. After this, we can then head on and actually get our first fairy type Pokemon, being Azural. It's got huge power, which is magnificent, and it's got a quiet nature. Now, unfortunately, Azumarill isn't powerful enough to manage to take out the first gym, therefore I need to do a good bit of running so I can get on to evolving it into a Marill. I then managed to acquire myself some roller skates, so now we can glide along the rest of our journey. Now, with this first gym battle, I actually forgot that you got locked in there beforehand, so you'll notice I'm not actually fully healed. It doesn't really matter though, as we just have to be like an Autobot and use Rollout. Both Surskit and Vivillon are weak to this, so it makes entirely short work of it and we have nothing to worry about. Now, on this next route, you actually have two possible encounters, being a Ralts and a Floette. Now, you'll notice what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to skip past these battles in order to have a better chance of getting the Ralts. There is another route further ahead where I can also get a Floette. And if I manage to get it there, that'll mean that I can actually get a Ralts from this because we use the species clause. Next up, we meet the professor for this region and we actually have to battle him. Now, he starts off with Bulbasaur, but we have got Return at this point, meaning the only thing he manages to do to us is get off a Leech Seed before we finish him off using 2 returns. After that, he sends out his Squirtle, who can't do much to us, but the Leech Seed damage is now stacking up. It does take 2 returns, and that means we've only got the Charmander to worry about now. Thankfully though, the Charmander only uses Smokescreen. This means we can get 1 return off, and we thankfully win this battle. We then run into Lysander, who informs us that he created the Holocaster as he wants to feel like Jor-El out of Superman. After this, we decide it's photo shoot time. The reason I do this is because there is a photo maniac who will actually give us a wide lens if we take enough photos. We then run into some woman who's let her dog on the loose and it's just sniffing at us. But he's a good little boy, so it's okay. Then we go from being sniffed by a dog to having to find one. And after that, we have a beautiful fireworks show with Shauna. In the daytime. Yeah, they actually set fireworks off in the day. What are they thinking? You can't see anything. After that, our Marill evolves into a Azumarill. And now I've finally made it onto the next route. I can begin looking for the next Pokemon. And it ends up being a Florges. This means we're now guaranteed a Ralts thanks to Species Clause. The Florges has a docile nature, which is okay, I guess. But even if it doesn't have a brilliant nature, they did guarantee us the Ralts, so we go and grab it. And the Ralts has a serious nature. 2 neutral natures in a row. Brilliant. One thing I do notice is Florges can throw the balls really fast in the super training. Like, look at it, it's a machine. We then have our Florges evolve into a Floette. And our Ralts follows suit by evolving into Curlier. Next up, we have the next gym leader, but at this point, we've got Azumarill, who's got huge power, and Aqua Tail. Obviously, we've also gone ahead and put the wide lens on him as well, so we have 99% accuracy with this move. I mean, it's almost impossible for us to lose here. Even getting paralyzed didn't stop us here. As we carry on our journey, I run into my next encounter being a Snubbull. It has a rash nature, which isn't the best, but it's also not the worst for it. Our newly found member has now got time to evolve into a Granville. And then I head on to Glittering Cave, and the thing about this is I have a chance of getting a Carbink. Unfortunately, it ends up being a Mr. Mime, as that's the most likely encounter in here. But it's still a decent Pokemon, so I'm not moaning whatsoever. As we're progressing, we then evolve Curlier into a Gardevoir. And with that, I'm now ready to take on Karina, the fighting type gym leader. It uses Fake Out off the bat, but because we've copied the Inner Focus with our Trace ability, one Confusion is enough to hit through and take it out. Then the Machoke comes out, but Machoke is really nothing to be worried about if you've got a Gardevoir. Finally, she has Howlute Check. Unfortunately for her, Gardevoir's Confusion slices through it just like a knife in butter. And now we have something I have to confess. This wasn't a Fairy type only run. I used a Lucario in a battle. And it was a Mega Lucario. I'm hoping you guys can forgive this, but I understand if it's me cancelled in the Pokemon community now. After this, I can finally evolve into a Florges. And then we have the joy of taking the Monorail, and unlike in Omega Ruby and Sapphire, the Monorail has next to no animation. Like, such a disappointment. We can now carry on to the next gym where he starts off with Jumpluff and I start off with Mr. Mime. He manages to get off a Leech Seed as I set up a Reflect. I then choose to Encore it into Leech Seed so it can't do too much damage as I take it out with a few Psy Waves. Go-Go then comes out, so I need to set up another Reflect as mine's run out, meaning it won't do too much damage to us. But at this point the Leech Seed is stacked up, so I need to switch into another Pokemon. I choose Unicorn, and it does get hit for low with a Bulldoze, but I can then set up a Lucky Chant to make sure I can avoid crits in the future. I get Go-Goat to about half health, but at this point I am one-shot, so I need to switch out. I've set up a Wish, and I actually choose to go into Harpy. Now, Harpy does some decent damage to it, but a heal does stop us from taking it out. Then, by the time we get it low enough, I'm a bit scared, so I actually switch into Minotaur. Minotaur knows Charm, which is the main reason I switched in, and I managed to get 2 off before needing to switch out again. I then make the mistake of switching into Mr. Mime, and if he had been crit, this would have been game over, but thankfully he wasn't, leaving me available to switch back into Mermaid. Mermaid isn't taking much damage, so we know we can just finish it off using a return. After this, it's got a Weeping Bell left, which is super effective with its Sludge Bomb, but it cannot survive more than 1 return, meaning we get this gym badge. We then have a little side quest with Team Flare, but honestly, they're a bit underwhelming. Most of them have 1 Pokemon, and none of them are that good against us, so we fly through it easily. After this, we learn the difference between 6 foot and 5'11". After this, we have to take on Doc Ock. Unfortunately for him though, our Harpy knows how to be quite calm, and it manages to raise its special attack because of this. This means that we can just sweep right on through. It's a bit underwhelming so far, I'll be honest with these gyms, but maybe it'll get harder later. Now, not too much happens between now and the next gym, so we'll just switch on right through, and a disaster happens. I actually risk my floor just taking a crit, it gets crit, and we lose it. Like, I should just listen to Flygon's advice, always play around the crit, but I wasn't expecting it, and I've lost a really good Pokemon to me being an absolute buffoon. This is pretty disastrous, as we've lost both Wish and Lucky Chant this way, meaning that we can't really heal our Pokemon from here on. Because of this, the strategy I came up for the next gym leader was actually to start off with Granville. Mawile is a pretty strong Pokemon, and none of my Pokemon can really take it head on, so I use Roar to get it out of my way. This brings in her Sylveon, and I do some decent damage with a Headbutt, but it wasn't too much, and it was a critical anyway. Plus, I'm infatuated thanks to the Cute Charm ability, so I switch out. I choose Gnome, and I actually Encore it into using a status move, so it can't really do much to us. The status move in question is Charm, and it lowers attack, meaning Harpy, who is a special attacker, does not care for it. This gives us ample opportunity to set up a fair few Calm Minds, and now we're guaranteed to take the Sylveon out. She then has a Mr. Mime come out, and it sets up a light screen, so I just decide to stall it out with Calm Minds up until that light screen disappears. Once it's gone, I can confidently take it out, and now all we've got left to deal with is Mawile, but because we've upped our special attack so much, we use 1 Psychic, and it's a goner. I then decide to strike fear in the health and safety officers by riding around on some conveyor belts. I then quickly have to battle Team Flare, but as usual, they're pathetic, so we get right on through it. We then get asked, do you want a Master Ball, something that can catch any Pokemon, or do you want a big Gold Ball? Obviously, the Gold Nugget is the way to go. With that done, we have our next encounter, and it is a Klefki. I then get recognized as the greatest rollerblader in the entire world, and I can now show off my 6 skills with it. As a reward for being so brilliantly as well, not only do we learn a new move, we get a Twisted Spoon. Up next, we actually have Olympia, the Psychic type gym leader. I decide to start off with my Gnome, and I actually encore it into using Reflect, meaning that I'm able to switch into my Gardevoir and safely set up some Calm Minds. Once this is done, I've taught it Thunderbolt, so Sigilyph does not stand a chance. Meowstic tries to copy us by making itself calm in itself, but we just fly on through. Then we only have Slowking left, but it's a water type, so as you can expect, Thunderbolt makes very quick work of it. Now we've discovered Lysander's a bit deranged, we actually take him on in a battle. However, none of his Pokemon are any threat to us. He starts off with a Mindfu. Guess what? We got Psychic type Pokemon. That means he's gone. He then throws out a Gyarados. Now, we don't have an electric type Pokemon, but we do have Harpy, who has Thunderbolt, so 4 times weak, where do you expect this to be going? That's right, it's taken out. Murkrow is, well, Murkrow, and then Pyro comes out, so obviously our Mermaid splashes him away. We then find out he must be jealous and have a bit of a small man syndrome as he's locked away the giant. We then get given a choice of pressing a button for a tactical nuke. Yeah, we kind of Hiroshima this place. Whoops. On the plus side for it though, it was quite fabulous. We then awaken a legendary beast, and guess what? It's a fairy type Pokemon. You know what that means, guys. We now have ourselves another Pokemon. Lysander then comes on to fight us, but he's got these weird bloody camera things, and I don't know what he's doing. Why does he have like cameras floating around him? You've got eyes, just look. Anyway, it makes us start off with Xerneas, but obviously we are joking and we're not going to be able to use it. This means he gets a free turn while we switch into another Pokemon. On that turn, he does use a Swords Dance, which is incredibly frightening, but I use a Play Rough the turn after and manage to take it out. Out comes Pyro after this, but I know it's not going to take me out, so I use an Aqua Tail to finish it. However, at this point, we are incredibly low, so we need to be paying attention to what's happening. He chooses Honchkrow, and after a bit of deliberation, I decide Minotaur's actually the best switch in here. This is because on my team there isn't much physical bulk, and this thing knows Charm. Therefore, I can set up a few charms before needing to switch out. I choose to switch into Harpy, but it does actually get hit with a critical right on entry, putting us really low. However, I can set up a 1 Calm Mind, and that is enough for me to take it out with a Dazzling Gleam. He then sends in his Gyarados. Now, this thing Mega Evolves, so it can be pretty scary. However, once it Mega Evolves, it does become part Dark type. This means all we need to do is use 1 Dazzling Gleam, and we've taken it out, and the little Spire can sink and just create a hole in the city instead. Yeah, lovely, isn't it? We've created a massive crater in a town. And on top of that, we're actually thanked for it. Like, imagine that. Imagine going in someone's house, trashing it and being thanked for it. That's what I feel like right now. We now run into Sycamore again, and he's obviously been trained as he levels all 3 of these up to their final evolutions. However, at this point, he hasn't quite fought through, as we've got Gardevoir who just sweeps through everything. You wasn't going to scare us this time. We have Psychic for your Poison type, buddy. We then have all of our friends catch up with us, and they've told us at this point that they've actually been training and they're doing quite well themselves. However, I'm not sure what sort of training they've been doing as I sweep through the entire lot of them. Like, it wasn't even a challenge for me. No worries whatsoever, all obliterated. Now, before the next gym, I can actually get another encounter being a Jigglypuff. It's got an impish nature, which is a bit disappointing as I actually plan on using Flamethrower on it. Obviously, at this point, we've already got a Moonstone, so we quickly evolve it into a Wigglytuff. And with that out the way, we can head on to Wolfrick, the final gym leader. Obviously, the Abominous Snow gets taken out with 1 Flamethrower and no trouble. He then sends out his Cryogonal. Now, this thing confuses us with Confuse Ray, and we do hit ourselves. With that and the hail damage, we are actually in risk of being taken out, therefore I switch out. I choose Klefki, but because of the confusion and everything in between, we actually don't manage to do anything to him before we need to switch that out also. The best choice I could think of was Harpy, as it can just use 2 Psychics and the Cryogonal is gone. After that, we've got Avalon, and I don't think I can survive this, so I actually switch into Mermaid. It curses, which is actually quite bad as my superpower does nothing and it almost takes us out in the next hit. Because of this, I know I need to switch out and I actually choose Minotaur as he can charm it away. This means he's going to be lowering his speed, raising his defense, but we're going to be lowering his attack so we're not too risky. I choose to switch into Ogre and I actually make a mistake of thinking Gyro Ball works the opposite way around, meaning I do no damage to him while he does major damage to us. At this point, it's not even close to safe to stay in, so I decide to switch into Gnome and set up a Reflect. Now, Gnome is pretty powerful, so I decide after this, why not just go for a Psychic? It works, it takes it out, and that's all the gym badges gathered for us. With that done, we can slide on down to the Elite Four. Before it, we do actually have a Serena Battle, however. I also completely forgot this fight was here, so as you'll notice, I hadn't healed up whatsoever. The Meowstic does do decent damage, but thankfully after one Calm Mind, I can take it out with a Dazzling Gleam. Delphox then comes out and it knocks us really low, and we do next to nothing to it, so we need to switch out. Obviously, we choose Mermaid, and as you can expect, Mermaid just obliterates it with one Aqua Tail. She then sends out Jolteon, and I make a massive mistake not switching out and using Play Rough instead. Thankfully, we survive her discharge and take it out. This does mean, though, for the Altaria, we need to switch into Granville, as it's the only one with a Fairy move at this point. Thankfully, it's on really good health. It's pretty bulky in itself, so it manages to take that out easily. The only thing left now is an Absol, and yeah, it uses a Sword Stance, but it can't survive a hit against us, and we win this battle. Now, I actually made a pretty big mistake here. I didn't realise when you got locked into this Elite Four. I genuinely didn't have a clue. So you'll notice I don't have amazing movesets because I forgot to grab TMs. I also am not leveled as much as I should be. And it's a bit of a risk, but it's my own fault. The first battle is the Fire-type Elite Four member, and there's no way around this. I take out the Pyro with an Aqua Tail, and it works quite well. She then sends out Talonflame, and it hits me with a Brave Bird. Phew, it did crit, but it didn't quite finish me off, thank God. After this, she sends out her Torkoal, and I know I'm faster than this, and I'll take it out in one, so I do. But then we have Chandelure. Now, Chandelure is 100% faster than me, so I need to make a decision on what to do. I eventually make the decision to switch into Gnome, however, this was really bad as he gets knocked down to 1 health. I then decide to switch into Wigglytuff as it seems to want to use Shadow Ball, and we've just had a Psychic type out. However, unfortunately, it uses Flamethrower. At this point, I can't think of a safe play to make, so I have no choice but to sack off our Wigglytuff. It's not really done much, and it's such a shame that we've had to lose it here. Us losing it, though, does mean we managed to get a free switch into our Harpy, and although it does get confused, we really have no other plays to make, so we just have to keep it in and hope we can Psychic enough to take it out. We do end up hitting ourselves while it's full restoring, but we don't get knocked fully out, and on the next turn, thankfully, we hit through and we finished her off. That was actually crazy close to what I was expecting. I thought Azumarill was going to sweep through it, but a crit can knock your entire plan off, and that just goes to show it. Now, we got a bit of a choice on who we can take on next, so I actually choose to go into the Water Elite Four member. I decide to lead with Harpy as it can't really do too much to me. Unfortunately, though, it does manage to confuse me with Water Pulse. This means I need to make the decision to switch to attacking, as I know I'm probably not going to live if I don't, but I do hit myself in confusion, meaning we only have one chance. We go for Thunderbolt again, and it hits this time. We snapped out of confusion. Thank God for that. Next, he sends out Gyarados, but this thing is 4 times weak to us, so I think you know exactly how this went. Afterwards, we have Barbaracle, but we've set up 2 Calm Minds, which means we one-shot it with a Thunderbolt. Next up is Starmie, but it's actually faster than us, and it manages to set up a Light Screen, meaning we can't take it out. I don't want to risk it taking Harpy out, so I decide we get a free switch in, so why not switch into Mermaid? I've taught Mermaid Power Up Punch, so I can use that to up my attack every turn, and even though it's not doing too much damage, I do manage to get it about a third down before I need to switch out. Thanks to the leftovers I put on Granville, even though it did take major damage, it's just enough for it to survive one more hit, This means I can use Payback, and obviously it obliterates it because it hit us first for major damage. That's the second Elite Four member down. Now, we take on the Dragon-type Elite Four member, but as you can expect, we've got Fairy-type, so I'm not awfully worried. I start off with Harpit, and I actually misclick. I was meant to go for Psychic instead of Dazzling Gleam, but unfortunately I didn't. Meaning that we get poisoned by him, and we manage to take him out, but we can't risk staying in for anything else. I opt to switch into Minotaur, and as I go to use a Play Rough, it does get a Sing off. Thankfully, we don't stay asleep too long, and we can get a Play Rough off, and that finishes the Altaria. Noivern then comes out, and we hit it for major damage, but not quite enough to take it out, and it almost knocks us out. I then opt to switch into Klefki, but I remember I didn't have much TM, so I hadn't actually sorted its moves out like I thought I was going to. It gets hit for major damage with a Flamethrower, therefore I switch into my Gnome. Gnome isn't too bad a Pokemon, and I've taught it Dazzling Gleam, so it takes me 2 of these to take it out, but at this point I'm insanely low. I know I need to switch out, and I switch into Minotaur, as he should be just tanky enough to take a hit. He is, and then I completely forget that I'm slower, so yet another completely avoidable death. I lost a Pokemon in the Fairy Challenge to the Dragon-type Elite Four member. Why am I so terrible at this? I then have no choice. I need to switch in Harpit as it can one-shot with Dazzling Gleam. But I misclick and hit Hypnosis. Thankfully, Hypnosis does hit. If it hadn't have hit, I genuinely think I'd have lost it here. Thankfully though, with him being asleep, we can obviously hit a Dazzling Gleam and one-shot it. Now we have one member of the Elite Four left, but it's the scariest as it is the Steel-type trainer. I choose to start with Harpit as it can trace Prankster, and this makes Hypnosis a priority move. From there, I just need to set up a few Calm Minds, and once I get enough of them up, I can finally begin to sweep. Unfortunately, it wakes up the next turn, meaning that I have to use another, and I do miss, but I hit the next one. Also, one thing to keep in mind is I actually gave the Wide Lens to up my accuracy here, but it does only up it 6%, so maybe it was a bad move, maybe not. I don't know fully, to be honest with you. Next up, we have Scissor, but we hit our Hypnosis against it, thankfully, so we can't get Bullet Punched. This means we just need to use one Thunderbolt, and we take it out. Next up is Probopass, and we are tormented and miss a Hypnosis, meaning we can't try it again on the next turn. Thankfully, a Thunderbolt does knock it down, so it hits it into its sturdy, and it doesn't finish it off with a Flash Cannon. This means the next turn, I can just spam away at it because it's always going to full restore or we're going to finish it off. So it's just a matter of battling through its sturdy with the moves that we've got, as we've got 2 attacking moves, until we take it out. Finally, we've got Aegislash. Now, I need to use Hypnosis against it. It hits, thankfully, and that means that it's game over from here. All we need to do is use a Thunderbolt, and down goes Aegislash. I honestly thought I would need to switch in another Pokemon here, but Harpit is amazing. Now we have the champion battle, the Hoarder of the Gardevoir. I wanted to use it in this playthrough, but she holds it until after the Elite Four. What a menace. She starts off with Howlucha, but as it goes for a Swords Dance, I take it out with the Psychic. Then out comes Gourgeist, which isn't exactly a wise plan, as I can just use Psychic against it and take it out. Next up comes Tyrantrum, but we're a Fairy type and it's a Dragon type. Guess what happens here? Not that the crit mattered. After this, we've got Aurorus, and I decide it's probably wise to set up a Hypnosis, but it misses. Thankfully, the second one hits, and this means that I'm free to set up a Calm Mind or 2. I did this as we obviously a bit low on Psychic PP, and I wanted to guarantee that Dazzling Gleam would take it out. Next up, she sends out a Goodra, but again, Dragon type, Fairy Challenge, not really hard. And finally, she has her Gardevoir. Now, she Mega Evolves it, but all we need to do is use Dazzling Gleam, and it is game over. And yeah, that was nice and anticlimactic. Quite easy. I was honestly a bit surprised, to be honest, but we got through it. Now, we finished this challenge, but I want to thank you guys personally, as the amount of support I've been receiving has been insane. As always, if you enjoyed this, could you please leave me a like? If you want to leave a suggestion for a run, leave a comment down below. Or if you just want to tell me how terrible I am, tell me right down below. And I'll accept my losses. You know, a lot of you have helped me grow as you've known stuff that I've maybe not known off the top of my head. Finally, there's a fair few of you who haven't actually subscribed to the channel but watch my content. If you could, it would massively help me out. It truly does massively help me out, and it's just a free little button, so if you don't mind doing that, I greatly appreciate it. As always though, thank you guys for your time, and I hope you guys have a great day.